All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ramblin Raiders podcast. We have a Ramblin preview for the big showdown in Lubbock this weekend. Oregon traveling to Texas Tech. I know a lot of people have had this game circled on their calendars for months leading up to the college football season. I want to introduce our newest Ramblin Raiders member, Jack Bell. He's been a contributor over at Viva the Matadors. Jack, I'll let you plug, those other podcasts you've worked with. We're really happy to have you on the Ramblin team. You can see here on the video, he's willing to take some time in the car on his commute home. Jack, what's up, man?
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, just other socials, the Cotton Club crew, we're doing that, kind of reviving that. Had some fallout with SB Nation over some of the Viva the Matadors. So probably going to get me in trouble, but don't go interact with that account anymore. It's trash. Just stick with the Cotton Club crew profiles over there. And I'm super glad to be here, man. It's long overdue. I feel like, Jackson, you and I have been talking about linking up and doing this for years now. So I'm finally excited that we get to do this and make it happen.
Yes, sir. No, it's good. Good to have you on board, man. And the chemistry is that much higher since the addition. So we're happy to have you, Jack. And then our other guest on the podcast for this big game, we have Andrew with the QB11 show. Andrew, what's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're really glad to have you as our guest star on this episode. I know that a lot of our followers are excited about this game and might not have the insights that they need about Oregon that you can provide and kind of get everybody's head screwed on right going into this potentially good matchup. I don't know. I know Tech fans are a little gun shy right now after what happened in week one, but we'll see. I know we'll break some of that down here. So, guys, real quick, I got to plug our social medias. If you don't follow us already, Ramblin Raiders, we're on Twitter or X at Ramblin Raiders, Instagram at Ramblin Raiders, TikTok at Ramblin Raiders, and our Facebook page is Ramblin Raiders Podcast. Also, make sure you go subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can catch this content and see the episodes instead of just listening to them. Our YouTube channel is just Ramblin Raiders Media. I think that's all the plugs I have. So let's just dive right in, guys. Oregon, number 13. That is correct, right?
Yeah, that is correct. AP poll, yeah.
AP poll, good. Okay, number 13, Oregon at Texas Tech. I kind of want this to serve as an opportunity for Tech fans to have a better lens for what this team is, or what Texas Tech is up against going into this weekend. So starting just kind of right off the bat here, Andrew, what when it comes to personnel, let's talk about the heavy hitters on both sides of the ball, starting with offense. Who are some names and some guys that Texas Tech fans need to keep an eye on and watch out for this Saturday?
Yeah, high level stuff. I think always start at the quarterback position. Bo Nix returning second year at Oregon, fifth year as a college starter, using that extra COVID year to come back for his senior season.
He's a vet for sure.
Yeah, he's played a lot of football, and since he's arrived in Eugene, he's been playing a lot of really quality football, and I think that we saw that obviously continue in week one. I don't think any Oregon fan with any credibility is putting too much stake into the fact that they hung 81 on an FCS team, but nonetheless, Bo Nix returning a big piece, both in the passing game and the run game. I don't anticipate with new offensive coordinator Will Stein that we're going to see his legs be featured as much as they were a year ago. Instead of doing a lot of the zone read stuff, they've been kind of replacing that with RPO tags this year. So at least early on, and it's kind of what we expected doing our offseason previews of the new, I wouldn't even call it a new, but the augmented Oregon offense now under his leadership. At the receiver position, starts and ends with Troy Franklin. He's very easily the best Oregon receiver of all time. Which, if you're an Oregon fan, so it sounds a lot, but our history of receivers is actually piss poor. A lot of people assume just because the Chip Kelly days, we were winning a lot of games, scoring a lot of points. We had a lot of tweeners at receiver in those days, like a lot of slot guys, a lot of guys who were like kind of running back hybrids that were good post catch, but they weren't guys that were like true X or Z receivers on the outside that could create a lot of separation. Franklin is that. He's got good length. He's got really, really good speed. He's twitchy. Again, probably the best route runner we've ever had. He's a guy that will be featured in this offense, and the offense under Will Stein's direction is absolutely going to feed him touches in a way that they didn't last year. besides him, largely going to be transfers in the receiver room. This was an area, again, just talking about Oregon's history at receiver, they haven't been particularly strong. So they went to the portal to add some pieces here as they look to improve the receiver room and the depth. Gary Bryant, a transfer from USC, is a player that I anticipate will get a lot of touches in this game. And then Tez Johnson, a transfer from Troy, in the slot. Again, Troy, not necessarily a school that you think of when you're thinking of big time players, was unbelievably productive. He was PFF's #1 receiver in the country last year from just a graded out standpoint. He's tiny. He's like 5'8", 170 pounds, but he's really quick and he's good in the short area. So those three, I think, are the primary players. Trayshawn Holden, an Alabama transfer, will be one of the first guys off the bench, and then Kyler Casper, a redshirt freshman, will be Franklin's backup, and he provides a little bit of a different element because he's all of 6'6", and a really springy, like, body control possession guy. So receiver room, those are the guys. Troy Franklin, again, is guy number 1. I think he's the one that everyone kind of needs to know going into the game. Number 11. Looking in the backfield, Bucky Irving, number 0. I would make a pretty strong argument for him being the best running back in the Pac-12 or whatever that conference is now. Noah Whittington, who was kind of the 1B back last year, he got a little dinged up early in the Portland State game. They held him out for precautionary reasons. I expect him to be back, and then Jordan James will make up that room. It's a deep room. Bucky's definitely the headliner, but I would say that 1 through 3, there's not a ton of drop off in that room. And then along the offensive line, this is where there's been some changes. Last year, technically it was 4 starters. It's really 3 because one of the guys that returns this year started 10 games last year at left guard after some injuries. But they replaced both tackles in the center. I think are probably the primary positions to know about. The left tackle was the number 1 tackle in the class of 2021, redshirted last year. And was fantastic. Again, the reviews coming out of fall camp were basically that he's kind of the next guy on the offensive line. And then a transfer from Rhode Island who had some really good tape against some good teams in non-conference. Ajani Cornelius will start at right guard. And then the center was the number 1 rated interior returning PFF interior offensive lineman. Again, I'm using PFF grades. I actually hate PFF. I don't really care what a bunch of interns who have to grade 60 players in 30 minutes think, but that's kind of where I'm at with. So yeah, ultimately it's an explosive group. It's a deep group. Terrence Ferguson at tight end is a really good player. Probably one of the better tight ends in the Pac-12. Oregon's got tons and tons of skill talent. They're deep. They can play kind of whatever personnel package they want, depending on what the defense is going to give them. They are going to be primarily an 11 personnel team, which means 1 back, 1 tight end. But sometimes they will go to 12, put a second tight end in the game. But when they've done that under Stein, to this point, again, it was vanilla, it was an FCS team. But the second tight end a lot of times is played detached from the formation. So there's the offense for you, I guess, at a high 30,000 foot view.
No, that was great, man. Just the detail we needed, and you almost gave me a heart attack there for a second. It stopped because or whenever you said Franklin was the best receiver y'all have had, because I started thinking back to some of those Chip Kelly offenses, and that makes sense when you talk about the tweeners that were really good, but not like your true X.
Yeah, we haven't had a receiver get drafted in the first or second round in like 30 years. And so I think the last one was Ahmad Rashad. So, and Franklin very likely will be a day 1 or day 2 pick next April. So, kind of bucking a trend in a way with him.
Nice. So you know what? Before we even get into defense, I'll hop over to Landon, who again does our graphics at Ramblin Raiders. Shout out to Landon. He posed a question on the social media app formerly known as Twitter, asking about the Oregon offense. Is it more run heavy or pass heavy in your opinion? Sounds like it can, do a little or a lot of both. And then so what kind of offensive attack can Texas Tech fans really expect to see primarily out of this Oregon offense?
Yeah, I think the one thing, especially if you watch this last year, like, this offense is an amoeba. I think the collection of skill talent that they've acquired, I mean, the recruiting has really hit an uptick since Mario Cristobal took over, and it's continued under Dan Lanning. So they don't have like holes in the personnel like they did under Chip Kelly or previous coaches. And so because of that, with depth at multiple positions, it's really kind of whatever it needs to be. So if you're playing against a team that's small, you can play 12 personnel, you can go big and play bully ball. If you're playing against a team that you feel has poor team speed and lacks the ability to go sideline to sideline, personnel matchup wise, you have the flexibility and the guys to kind of be whatever you want. Primarily, it's going to be an 11 personnel team, one tight end, one back. It's going to be spread. A lot of RPOs, a lot of zone read. I'll say that the vertical aspect of the passing game is much more of an emphasis this year than it was last year. But even last year, Oregon was almost like, even when you look at excluding garbage time last year, was almost 50-50 run pass. And if you look at play calls from week one, it was 50-50 run pass. It skewed a little bit pass because of what the RPO reads were calling for. But again, it's really this offense is dictated on balance. It's mixed tempo. They'll go fast sometimes. They'll go slow sometimes. That's one of the things that changed when Dan Lanning came in, was the ability to mix tempos situationally. Oregon was an excellent team, one of the best teams in the country last year in the middle eight. So the last 4 minutes of the second quarter, first 4 of the third quarter, maximizing possessions, also limiting possessions for the opponent. So mixed tempo, spread offense. I expect probably 2 vertical shots, at least a quarter. I know that's kind of a target that they have as a baseline, but they will lean on the run game heavily.
God,
Hey,
that must
Jack,
be so cool to actually. That must actually be so cool to use the offense like it's supposed to. Like
I,
that's got to be so satisfying to watch.
I was about to say
like,
that's
this is a new thing for us. Like, again, like throughout the years, like there was times early in the Chip years, and again, he's a really smart offensive coach. I still think that Chip is probably one of the best schematic guys in the country.
for sure.
But there were times where Oregon really struggled to take their foot off the gas. Like it was either full speed ahead, we're running plays every 15 seconds, or we're going 3 and out because we have no ability to operate outside of that crazy fast tempo. And last year was the first year where I've ever seen Oregon actually be able to really like flex tempos and operate like successfully in that and not lose. Like they didn't see like massive fall off in success rate when they were changing tempos last year.
So in week one, Jack, I mean, again, it's week one. We still have a lot of football ahead of us this season. I think those were some of the biggest issues you saw with Texas Tech's offense, was finding that identity or being able to settle into one or the other. Instead, you come out of the gate hot with tempo, you're putting up a lot of points, looks like you're running away with it. Next thing you know, you're getting these 3 and outs. You're not kind of taking what the defense is giving to you, or you're just not executing at a high enough level with that tempo, and the momentum changes, and all of a sudden you're in trouble kind of trying to dig yourself out of a hole. So, Jack, I want to throw this your way. By the way, excellent driving, brother. I haven't noticed any controversy, any unnecessary lane changes. Just beautifully done.
Hey, I'm keeping it PG right now, so I've had a tendency to kind of lash out a couple times, but I'm trying my best here.
Hey, that compared to Houston traffic, DFW, I would say that's more of a challenge, man, because they don't mess around over there on the Dallas roads. You got to keep your head on a swivel, because it can get pretty aggressive. But I want to ask you, Jack, as far as our defense is concerned, Texas Tech's defense, what do you think Tech's defense does and DeRuyter does to find success against this Oregon offense? I mean, as you just heard from Tyler, this is a potent and consistent offensive attack that can hurt you both ways. Anytime you hang 80 on a team, even if it's FCS, you're showcasing some serious capability. What does Tech have to do, man?
I think the best course of action, honestly, would just be to disguise some blitzes. A lot of pre-snap motion, kind of not giving away your hand before the snap. I feel like a lot of the times Tech kind of gets themselves in trouble doing that. They kind of telegraph what they're trying to do on the defensive end sometimes. And I think that Tech's best course of action here would kind of be to mix things up. When we brought in Tim DeRuyter, that was a big skill set that we thought we were going to be able to utilize. That he could disguise blitzes very well. And he could go one way or the other. He could throw in a blitz from a safety without anyone knowing, kind of weak side stunts, blitzes, all that. So I just feel like just don't give away your hand too much. And really, and I think one thing that they kind of struggled with in the first game, it was not really adapting to what Wyoming was running. They knew what was going to happen. They had 8 months to prepare for the game. But I feel like in the course of the game, during it, there wasn't a whole lot of adaptation. There wasn't a whole lot of adjustments made. So
Agreed.
we got to get better at that on both sides of the ball, not just defense, but defense especially here, because it's liable. We're liable to see another stinker. If they put out another defensive effort like they did against Wyoming, it could get ugly.
I need to look at the over-under on that, see where Vegas is predicting it. But speaking of that, Jack, you just helped segue us into our next topic here. Tyler, I want to throw it back to you. Let's talk about this Oregon defense, man. What are the names to look out for and the personnel to check on the defensive side of the ball?
I don't know how you got my middle name, but that's crazy that you figured it out. But
oh wait, what did I say? Did I?
you kept saying Tyler. It's all good. It's Andrew.
Oh, that's my bad, man. Hey,
no,
that was like some kind of telekinetic right there. I don't know how I tapped into that.
Man. Yeah, so I guess we'll start like high level. Like Oregon runs a mint front, which is an odd front defense. That's base three. It's kind of a 3-4. Oregon almost is never actually playing with four backers. It's usually a nickel. And again, every defense is multiple now. I hate when people are like, "Oh, we run a 4-3. Oh, we run a 3-4." Really, everyone runs everything. It's all dependent on down distance. There's so many different substitute packages. I think even depth charts defensively are kind of a waste of time at this point. But in terms of playmakers, the defensive front, I think, is where things start. Brandon Dorlus on the interior is a player that a lot of people actually anticipated to go pro last year. He's our best interior pass rusher. Really explosive guy. Had a bunch of tackles. I don't know the stats off the top of my head. Had a bunch of tackles for loss last year. Probably 3.5 or 4 sacks. But he was actually forced to play out of position, play more on the edge just due to injuries and lack of depth at that position last year, which changes now with a lot of players coming back from injury. Oregon attacked the transfer portal and then also prep recruiting really, really hard to turn over, I believe, 43 players on the roster from 2022 to 2023. So Brandon Dorlus in the interior, Popo Mave is another guy. Missed all of last year. He's been one of Oregon's best interior defensive linemen since 2019. But every other year he gets hurt for the year. And so returning for his like redshirt senior sixth season this year, played really well week one. Mateo Uyangalele, DJ Uyangalele, the former Clemson and now Oregon State quarterback's little brother, 5-star recruit out of high school, is going to be playing a lot on one edge, specifically in passing down situations. One of Oregon's probably he's Oregon's most talented pass rusher already, even though he's a true freshman. His impact, we'll see, right? It's a true freshman playing on the road in his first game. I would love to say that I expect him to play really, really well, but that's tough to predict coming into a game like this. And then the other big one is Jordan Birch on the front. South Carolina transfer, former 5-star, was like number 4 on Bruce Feldman's freak list coming into this season. Hit 22 miles an hour at 290 pounds, 6'6". Even on a pretty talented roster, like physically, he stands out like a sore thumb. Watching South Carolina film last year, he's one of the better edge run defenders in the entire country. Had an insane pressure rate, but really didn't convert into sacks a lot. So the Oregon pass rush ultimately is probably the biggest question mark on the entire team coming into this season. Lowest sack number in the history of the program, or at least in the last 50 years last year. And they've made a lot of personnel changes to try to address the lack of talent there. So moving to the linebackers, Justin Jacobs, an Iowa transfer, probably one of the best players on the team. He was a starter at Iowa. He's a starter at Oregon. Unlikely to play this week, so that's a big loss. Jeffrey Bossa, those guys, there's a lot of speed at the linebacker room, some converted safeties. Sideline to sideline, this is a spill and kill defense. Like, you're going to rely on the front to stop to clog up the interior gaps and force things to bounce in the run game. Oregon can run sideline to sideline with anybody at linebacker. I don't like their ability to take on blocks, if I'm being honest, at the linebacker position. A lot of these guys, with the exception of probably Connor Sole, who's a transfer from ASU, can get swallowed up if guys are climbing to the second level for free. But in general, last year, I know that there's that vaunted Oregon State game that everyone talks about where we completely threw the game away late and they ran the ball really successfully. Oregon's run defense was far better than its pass defense last year. And I think that's kind of a combination of poor pass rush last year, as well as a not great secondary, specifically at safety. At safety, I think Oregon made 2 of the biggest additions of the offseason for them at that position. They brought in Evan Williams, who's a really, really productive player at Florida State, younger brother of Bennett Williams, who started for Oregon last year. and then Tyshim Johnson, a starting safety for Ole Miss, transferred into Oregon. Both of those guys were brought in to start so that the guys that were playing last year don't have to play anymore. 4 of the 5 starters in the secondary are different than they were a year ago. Kyrie Jackson's going to be starting at corner. He's Oregon's best corner. He's an Alabama transfer. And then opposite of him is former 5-star Dante Manning, who this is his 3rd year as a primary contributor. We'll see. I'm hoping he can kind of start to play up to his athletic talent level, kind of a freaky athlete, but has been inconsistent. So I think the primary playmakers are going to be Brandon Dorlus, Mateo Uiagalelei, Jordan Birch, Popo, a lot of guys in the front, and then really at safety, it's going to be Evan Williams and Tyshim Johnson, who are going to be the guys that determine Oregon's success level defensively here.
First off, Evan Williams, hell of a name, really great whiskey that I don't drink as much anymore, but that I used to drink a lot more of. And I'm just so I make sure I heard that right. So you're saying that you think better in the run defense and the pass defense, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I try, I know your listenership is not like they're not super exposed to me. I know that I've said a lot of really good things about Oregon so far, and I'm an Oregon fan, but I really am not a homer. Like, this is the best front in the conference against the run. Like, Oregon's front is very physical. We're big. We go about 6, 7 deep on the interior. And so, like, the interior of this defensive line is super stout. The problems come with the pass rush, right? Even on the edge against the run, they've got a good mix of players who have a lot of experience and are really good at setting the edge. But we just don't know what we have from a pass rush yet. Last week against Portland State, like, they didn't want to put their quarterback in harm's way. They just kind of ran the ball and tried to get out of there, and that's what happened. They didn't have a lot of success doing that, but they kept their guys in one piece, which I know was a priority for them. Oregon can run sideline to sideline at linebacker. They don't have the best, like if you were a team like Wyoming, right, that was going to play a bunch of 23 personnel, have a fullback in and play ISO. I hate our inside linebackers for that, because outside of Justin Jacobs, who won't play in this game, if you ask me, based on what I'm hearing, all of our guys are a little bit light, but they can really run and they can go sideline to sideline. Like, we've got, I'd say the average in our linebacker room is probably like low 4.6, high 4.5. Like, we can really run, but we are not particularly big, and we don't take on blocks particularly well. At defensive back, it's kind of a question of, like, I think that the pieces are good. Like, the individual pieces are good. The guys that got out of the transfer portal were good players where they were. They're coming into a good system. The question is how do they all mesh together? Is there going to be communication errors on the road in a big environment against a really well-coached offense with talent on the outside? Because I've done a lot of film research on Tech. I know you guys have a really good receiver room. I know you guys have some pretty unique body types at tight end that can cause some matchup issues. So when I look at our personnel, like, in terms of how we match up, like, if I'm Tech, I'm not trying to run the ball, because I saw you guys try to run the ball against Wyoming, and the talent level is ticking up in a massive way on the defensive front against Oregon. So the questions for us are very much in the secondary, where last year we struggled against some teams that could really air it out, whether it was Washington, and at times against UCLA.
So that was my point, Jack. Isn't that great that we average like 2.8 yards a carry or 2.6 yards a carry against Wyoming? Sounds like we need to maybe just fully abort the run game for this one.
Well, yeah, I like the fact that Andrew said that we have some unique body types at tight end. That's really true. We do, and I'm interested to see if they get used in this game.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
If I'm Kitley, I'm leaning into that. Like, not to interrupt you, but like that's where, like, whether it's at the nickel, I don't know what Oregon's going to do. So last year, a lot of times we ran a third safety as the nickel we call it the star in our system. In this game, the nickel is going to be on the field all game. You guys run primarily 11 personnel as well. I anticipate Oregon's going to run with a third corner, which, again, that's putting a lighter body type on the field. Maybe that is a green light to run. I know we're probably going to keep bodies out of the box and trust our front. Like, the whole, like, that Georgia Alabama tree with the mint front, like, the whole concept is you're going to have a bunch of big badasses up front. Like, we're going to try to play with less up front in terms of bodies and numbers, so that we can keep that second high safety back there, and try to keep things in front. And so, again, we'll see how that works. I really like your guys' receiver room. I like Tyler Shough's ability to throw the ball vertically. And I think that ultimately, like, that's what's going to determine the final score of this game, is if Oregon can match up on the outside.
Well, so jokes aside, actually, explaining that I do feel a little bit better, Jack. I don't know about you about going into this, because I think if Texas Tech is going to be successful in this game, it's going to be on the back of Tyler Shough and airing this ball out a little bit more. Zach Kittley even mentioned it in his presser. He said, that's on me. I have to be more aggressive. I have to take shots downfield. Whereas our run game, look, we'll work on that and continue to build there as we can. But after what we saw against Wyoming, we're not coming in that position as world beaters where we can just run all over Oregon. It's not going to happen. So hearing that if this Oregon defense was a little more susceptible, it could possibly be in the pass game. It sounds like that's what we're going to have to do.
It was horrible last year against the pass, like especially vertical pass. Like we didn't match up well. We don't know how this new personnel is going to work yet, and so like that's a giant question mark, unknown. I'm not sitting here telling you that this Oregon defense is gangbusters. The one thing I'll tell you is that interior defensive line is really good.
Is legit, yeah.
But like the back seven to me in pass coverage is still a giant who knows. I think the talent is certainly upgraded, like player for player, but how that works week 2 on the road in a tough environment against, again, a really well coached. I love your guys' passing game. I think it's well designed. I think you have a quarterback with the talent to distribute the ball, and I think you guys have really good receivers. And so, like that to me is like the matchup of this game, and especially with Oregon not having a good pass rush last year. Is Oregon going to be able to generate pass rush to make him uncomfortable? Because having, like, I know Tim DeRuyter pretty well because he was here. I know Tyler Shough pretty well because he was here. Like, if you get bodies in Shuck's face, like he will sometimes put the ball in harm's way.
Yeah.
And
no doubt.
Oregon was unable to do that to anybody last year.
Well, so you just segued perfectly into our next point. And Jack, you actually brought this to my attention, so I'm going to let you ask it. But yeah, let's talk about the storyline, the headline. One of them that's tagged and associated with this game is the return of Tyler Shough's old team coming to play him in Lubbock, but just the dynamic between him and Oregon. Jack, if you want to ask it, kind of just what that means and your take on that as well.
Yeah. So basically, I'm intrigued by the headline, and essentially, my question was just going to be, and you kind of almost answered it in a way, but at the same time, I was just kind of gauging Oregon fans, not concern, but just, I guess, belief in the fact that, I guess not that Tech could win the game, but that Tyler Shough could put up a performance to get Tech on the front step to win the game.
That he's going to have some all-time, performance.
Like
because of the history.
So with Tyler, like I think, I'll speak for myself. I don't want to speak for other fans. Like Tyler came in, he had a lot of talent. Like we all really liked him as the backup at Oregon. And frankly, like we didn't have too many issues with him as the starter. It was just that like over the course of the season, his confidence completely broke in 2020. And like by the time, I know he gets credited with that Pac-12 title game, Anthony Brown kind of took over in that game. And not saying he was good, because he was probably one of the most hated Oregon quarterbacks of the last 3 decades. But it was just one of those situations where like you could tell a young, like a redshirt freshman quarterback was just really struggling towards the end of that year. And like he had kind of progressed game to game and was playing pretty well, in my opinion, early on, and it just kind of fell off the end. And so I don't think that you're going to find Oregon fans with like hate for Tyler Shough. I don't think any of us dislike the kid. I think we all acknowledge that he had a lot of physical talent and tools. I mean, he's a deceptively good runner. He's got a good mechanical foundation as a passer. He's got good arm talent. He can make all the throws, right? There's no questions about any of that. And so I don't have any questions about his ability to lead the Tech offense. I didn't have questions about his ability to lead the Oregon offense. It was just one of those things where a young quarterback just kind of lost his confidence over the course of the year. And I think that the change of scenery and the reset for him was needed, and was a good thing for him. But I've seen some people kind of present it like he was ran out of Oregon. I think they would have liked to have kept him, but it was just one of those things where there was opportunities for him to go play right away somewhere else and kind of get that like fresh scenery and that new start. And I don't think anyone blames him for doing that.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And it kind of felt that way, if I'm being honest. I haven't seen any true hostility from Oregon fans. To be honest, I haven't sensed, and of course we're not tied that close to the program, but I haven't sensed really major hostility from Tyler Shough. Like this is a, chip on his shoulder. It was more of, like you said, kind of one of these, and they happen all the time now in college football with the transfer rule and with NIL, with, all these opportunities for quarterbacks to go play immediately if it's not working out where they're at, that he just, it was an opportunity for him to play immediately and kind of have that reset, as you mentioned. And so, yeah, I do think
even if he does, hate Oregon, like all the guys that he would hate at Oregon are gone. Like for instance,
gone.
like
Exactly.
the whole staff that was there when he was there is gone. The only person left is the equipment manager, and then the in terms of personnel, like since Dan Lanning took over as the head coach in December of 2021, 73 of the 85 scholarship players have been turned over.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different roster for the most part, outside about 12 guys.
I did hear a message board rumor that the equipment manager did make out with Tyler Shough's or his girlfriend before he left, and so I don't know, that might still be burning in his
Kenny
heart.
Farr, you dirty dog, man. Who knew?
Hey, that guy's got incredible game, apparently. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, you almost have to search for something to create that sort of storyline of animosity, because it doesn't really come from either side. So I'm sure he'll be, inspired, one, because you're playing for your first home game in front of a top 15, extremely talented team after coming off the back of a loss, quite frankly, in which you didn't play your best game. That's all the motivation he's going to need. But nonetheless, it's just kind of funny that Oregon and Tech have this home and away picked out. When we were in college, Jack, I remember that news came out back in like 14 or something, and we were like, damn, I mean, cool, I guess we'll catch me in 10 years or whatever. Like when this,
here we
are now, we're all old. I was in college too.
Honestly, saying that out loud kind of makes me sad now, that like, wow, it really has been that long. And here, like you said, here we are, just a couple of podcasts started up later, but yeah, it's just funny how here, and then all of a sudden Texas Tech gets a transfer quarterback with Tyler Shough. You would think there might be more to that than there is, and it just sounds like it's kind of just it's a sort of coincidence that happened here. So
I mean, you guys have Terrell Tillman too, and you guys have Marcel Yates, who was here with DeRuyter under that last crystal ball staff. And so like I don't think there's any lack of familiarity. I mean, shoot, we got 2 Ole Miss players who played against you guys in the bowl game. So
exactly,
Tysheem Johnson and Casey Kelly. So there's like a lot of familiarity. Again, I can't speak for Tyler. Maybe he really does hate the Oregon and the program and the fan base. I'm sure that there's been plenty of people who have said things that would make him want to. And again, as a competitor, I'm sure there's no lack for motivation for him to want to prove himself to his old school. But I don't think that there's any real animosity from our fan base towards him on a large scale.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. Okay, real quick, I have to do a sponsor plug, guys. Pennant Patchwork. They have the best Texas Tech lids that you're going to find anywhere in as far as the hat market's concerned. Use the promo code Ramblin, RAMBLIN, all caps, for a 10% discount on any purchase that you make through their website. Go check out their website. Again, Pennant Patchwork. They're locally based, ran by a couple of Red Raiders. They do great work. Hell, maybe even after the game, we'll send you a hat as well using that promo code, Andrew, so that if you kick our ass, you can just have it and keep it around for keepsake, or if y'all end up losing somehow, you can just burn it right there on the spot. But Pennant Patchwork, 10% off your purchase. Y'all check it out. Okay, so other than that, Jack, unless you have any other questions, I kind of wanted to end this. I think this has been, by the way, Tyler, thank you. Damn it, I did it again, dude. Why? Tyler Shough is like in my head, and it just so happens, man. You and I knew each other in a past life.
Curious, you hooking up with Tyler's girlfriend?
Yeah. Right. I mean, damn.
Got some guilt, some subconscious guilt pulling through on the podcast.
That's it. It was me. Spoiler alert, I had to try to pin it on the equipment manager, but it turned out it backfired against me. So this has been great, Andrew. Seriously, I mean, you've given us a really more intricate view of this team, kind of what we're up against, what we can look out for. So I want to thank you for that. I thought we could end this with a must do's in Lubbock. Unless, Jack, real quick, do you have any other sort of pressing questions you wanted to throw out there before we move on?
Nah, I love talking about Lubbock, so I'm down for it.
So this is a lot of fun because I I would go out on a limb to guess that not a lot of Oregon fans have probably found themselves in Lubbock, or, might have been planning to make that trip 10 plus years ago or 10 years ago, whenever this was announced. But for all the fans, I think there will be a good contingency. You had mentioned that earlier, Andrew, that you think there will be a good amount of Oregon fans traveling.
Yeah, I mean, we travel well. Like usually the one big non-con away game that we get every 2 years, we travel really well for. So I would anticipate, again, especially because like the rumor is that Lubbock is the Malibu of Texas. So I know fans are really excited to get down there and experience all the waterfront property and the beaches. And
you could not have described it any better. I mean, it's the Malibu, the Honolulu of the Southwest Plains of Texas. Just so many scenic views coming in. Whenever you're flying in, make sure you lift up that, if you're sitting on a window seat, lift it up and just take in all of the scenic views as you're heading into Lubbock Airport. Things that you must do in Lubbock when you're traveling there. I will say, for as much as people do jock on Lubbock and Texas Tech, there's a lot of fun things to do out there. The problem I guess you run into is that it's so remote that if you do want to get out of town, you're a good 6 hours away from pretty much everything, unless you're trying to go to New Mexico. But once you're in the 806, past the 806 county line, you're in Lubbock, Texas. A couple of things I want to share, because I know y'all have a good following, Andrew, with y'all's show. And so, you can spread the wealth for them on this. Broadway, that's our big bar district that we have. It's right across from the stadium. So if you want to do it on game day, then, it's highly recommended. I would also recommend going there on Friday. They've added a lot of cool kind of bar scenes over there, and bar/restaurants on Broadway since Jack and I left Texas Tech. But definitely go try it out. Get there early. Biggest recommendation. The lines are going to be crazy if you don't do your due diligence and show up pretty early on. The earlier you get there, the more of a party you can have when you're in Lubbock. And you trust me, you're going to want to be consuming some beverages while you're there to really enhance your experience. So go to Broadway. Chimmy's is a must. And when you get to Chimmy's, you have to do a DP shootout, and you got to try their do they call them the suicide fries, or just the loaded cheese bacon fries, Jack? I can't remember if you say fries, they're going to know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Get the waffle fries. They're all waffle fries, but yeah, they're waffle fries with some good queso and some bacon, throw in some jalapenos.
Dude,
it's game time.
It's knockout. Like, it's incredible. So get the fries, try a DP shootout or a Quaalude shot. That's the other big one that I've heard that they've kind of tweaked it so that it's not as potent as it was back in our day, Jack. But one of those two shots, it's going to get your mind right to deal with a bunch of rambunctious Red Raiders on game day or the night before.
Oh, we would be remiss not to mention a Chilton as well.
Oh, gotta include a Chilton if you're more of like a kind of spritzer, vodka, gin, light alcohol based drink. Can't beat a Chilton. The birthplace of that drink is in Lubbock, and they do a great job making them. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Andrew. Did you have something?
You're good. I heard to be from everyone I've talked to from down there. It sounds like to be ready to have a lot of good Tex-Mex too. I've heard there's some good Tex-Mex spots.
Tex-Mex is great. What off the top of your head, Jack? What would your go-to Tex-Mex be?
I mean, so there are a couple of restaurants around Lubbock. I think that I consider Lubbock staples. More, I guess I would say, Jackson, you like Caprock Cafe. They serve beers in frozen schooners. Yeah. So it's ice cold every time. They have a lot of Mexican options on the menu. It's more like American food. They have good burgers, a lot of other stuff, good like chicken, stuff like that. But Caprock Cafe is kind of a one-stop shop where they do pretty much everything. And so I always make it a point of mine to stop at Caprock at least once when I'm in the 806. And since I'm driving in tomorrow night, I can definitely say that I will spend at least a good hour or two of my time at some point this weekend at Caprock, just because I know I'm going to get a good product every time.
Yeah, that
There
was
we
going to be
go.
my restaurant plug. Besides, also Spanky's is not too far from Broadway. Really, if you're going to Spanky's, I just recommend you got to do the fried cheese. That's like the biggest thing. The rest of their food is okay, not as quality as Caprock, and that was going to be my recommendation as well. Caprock Cafe is a must. It's a staple in Lubbock. They have great food, and then as Jack just pointed out, it's a chalice of beer that is I mean, I might be a little biased. I think it's the coldest beer in America. You're going to want to definitely go try that out and get you set up for this weekend's festivities. But yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. Those are all the spots I was going to recommend. Spanky's Fried Cheese, Caprock Cafe, and then just got to go to Broadway and live it up.
Excellent. I
So
know I'll make sure to tweet that out. We'll get as many Oregon people listening to this as possible, so we can get that get the word out on those recommendations, because I know people will enjoy it.
love it, man.
We'll
Yeah,
we'll let you in, we'll let you in. We want to let you in on a little Broadway secret, and it's well known amongst the students, but probably not for out of towners. So most of the bars close at 2 on Broadway, except for Chimmy's. Chimmy's closes at midnight. So people do the Broadway shuffle, go to a lot of other bars on Broadway, but the key is to hit the back alley behind Chimmy's and walk down to Bar PM after it closes, and that's the move. Bar PM from midnight to 2 a.m. is the move. I've spent many a nights there. Back in the day, they used to allow smoking inside. I don't know if they still do, and that was back in my degenerate phase. So I spent a lot of time and at Bar PM after midnight, and
Jack
quite
just
frankly
ripping
after
heaters at
2
1 o'clock
p.m.
in the morning.
Oh, just some quality long darts going down. So
inside SIG for days. I mean, that's just the best lawless establishment that there is that you can find in Lubbock. They might let you hang around even a little bit after 2 o'clock if you're treating them right.
Oh
And
yeah,
paying,
if for some reason you find yourself there in the daytime, weirdly enough, they have a great food menu as well. The food is super good, and it is a thing that not a lot of people know about, that they have such a good food menu, but they do. And weirdly enough, I think the best thing that they have, I wouldn't recommend it this weekend because it's hot, but they have great chili. So for anyone listening that's going to plan on going to Tech games when it's cold out, if you stop by Bar PM, get a bowl of chili, that shit is fire. I had to throw it out there.
If you're hankering for some chili come Friday or Saturday, you know where your spot is. That's honestly hilarious.
This is top-notch content. This is the best content I think I've ever been a part of producing. This is amazing.
This is inside baseball right here. So the Oregon fans are getting a peek behind the curtain.
Getting a special treat.
Yeah,
we'll have to talk before you guys come out to Eugene. Unfortunately, all the good college bars in Eugene got closed down since I've been out of there. So,
really?
yeah, well, there's some decent food recommendations. I'm just telling you right now, Lubbock sounds like a more fun town than Eugene, but the game day experience at Audson's pretty fun. So we'll have to meet up. I don't know if you guys are planning to come out next year when you guys make the return trip, but
I'd love to.
We might have to make it. Yeah, we might have to make it a fact-finding mission.
Yeah, for sure, man. Do a little scavenger hunt out there. I have a buddy that lives over in that area, and I've already told him I'm coming. I'd like, long story short, I'll stay with him, but I'd like to make it out to that game and experience that game day experience, or that experience that y'all provide out in Eugene. So it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. It's going to be an electric environment, despite Tech's woes. Woe is us in week 1. I think one thing, and I forgot, I mean, we have to do a prediction here just to, solidify it. But one thing that's been characteristic of Joey McGuire's teams in year 1, again, we're working with kind of a, short resume here, but in year 1 is that after a bad loss or just a really disappointing performance, Baylor, North Carolina State, Joey, I guess he's a master motivator, because they always come out in a lot better shape than they did the week prior. Unfortunately for Joey and co, they're coming up against what I think is going to be a college, football playoff true contender this year, and an Oregon team that's really well coached and obviously loaded with talent, as Andrew's pointed out. Going to be an awesome atmosphere despite the loss. Texas Tech fans turn out. They've had this game, I think I mentioned it at Mark, all off season. Going to be incredible. Predictions, boys. Let's throw it around. I'll start with you, Jack. I'll get your prediction, because I have a people will say it's a homer pick and it's a little biased, but it's more coming from a gambling perspective. So I want to start with you, Jack, and then work our way back to me in the end.
Well, I wanna applaud you, Andrew, for not being a homer in terms of talking about Oregon, because my pick is gonna be the homer pick.
Oh, here we
Because
go.
I love that.
I can't. This is a season, and I'm sure you've done your research on Tech, that a lot of people had a lot of high expectations for this team, and I just don't think that you catch Tech down bad 2 games in a row. Um, I don't know if Tech necessarily wins the game. I think it's going to be. I will say this. I think it's going to be close, and I think that Tech keeps it close, and possibly whoever comes down to the last possession. I think Oregon might skate away with this one, but I think it's going to be within the 3 to 6 point range. I'll give it that. But I think it is going to. Jack, did you look at what the over was?
Yeah, hey, I was gonna say you stole my flow, man. Word for word, bar for bar. That's exactly what I'm about to or was about to say. It's the over under is at 69, I believe I saw. And I could see this game being a bit of a, maybe like both teams in the high 30s, 40s, more of a shootout style.
I was gonna say I think I'd still take the over.
Yeah, I would too. Andrew, go ahead, man.
Yeah. I've got this game getting into the 70s. Like I have money on the over on this game. So
Yeah.
I've got it. I think it's probably gonna be like 42 to 34 Oregon. Like it depends on game flow. Like I could see Oregon scoring late to get to that place. I really like, I don't mean this to be a homer or anything. I don't see you guys keeping us under 40. And so I think like if for Tech to win this game, they need to get in the 40s, because this is in terms of like probably the best, like the most well balanced offense we've had, like in terms of the ability to be both explosive in the passing game, but also just lean on you and grind it out on the ground. Like this is a town. This is I would be very surprised if Oregon doesn't have the most draft picks it's ever had come April. Like this is a very talented team. There's this is a game I've been looking forward to just to find out who we are ultimately, like defensively, because I don't know, like, is our pass rush fixed? Is our secondary fixed? I can't answer that. I mean, even if it is fixed, are we keeping you guys under 30? I don't think so. So again, I think first team to 40 wins this game. I'm taking the Ducks. I just think that we can win in more ways offensively than Tech.
Yeah, no, I think that that's kind of right in line with where I was at. Is that, look, I expect this team to bounce back and put together a pretty good performance. I could also see it being a tight game until, maybe Oregon gets a big play, busts it open kind of late in the fourth. So I'm looking at this. I need to put my chef hat on in one of our segments that we do called The Rip. It's all about sports betting, and I got my chef out here where I'm cooking up some locks for you. I think I saw a stat that just said it was 95% of the money right now. The two biggest takes so far this weekend are Oregon and Colorado. With these kind of rat lines, at 6.5. I think Colorado against Nebraska is
it's been floating between 3.5 and 2.5 all week.
Yeah, I mean, so all the money's on these, which I think kind of can make Texas Tech fans feel a little better. I'm with Jack. I think this is going to be a close game, one of those, hey, who's got the ball last? Type situations could it end on a field goal. I could see this game being a kind of like you were also saying, Andrew, like a 52 to 49, 48, 45. Somebody's winning it on a field goal, right? Like you're getting that last second drive. So I don't know if Tech can pull it out either. There's going to have to be a lot of corrections made from week one. I know these guys are talented. They're passionate. They're playing in front of the home crowd for the first time all year in what should be a pretty daunting environment at Texas Tech. But my biggest takeaway from this, I guess, kind of hot take, is that I do think that Tech covers, and that's not even with buying the hook. I think I'm with you, Jay. I think it's a 6 3-point game. Oregon's loaded, man. I mean, it's let's just say your boy's praying for some turnovers, because that offense is potent. That Oregon's, putting out there on the field, and it's going to take a lot to keep them under 40, if it's even possible. So again, we're praying for some more turnovers than we had last week, which we had 2 last week, and it was great. But I think it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I'll add it on this. I truly think that this Oregon team is the best team that Tech's going to play all year. I'll say that.
Agreed.
And I don't have it, and I don't have any second thoughts about it. I definitely think this is the best team that Tech plays all year, probably including the bowl game. So, I truly think that, and I think that Oregon is supremely talented. To say otherwise is just that's very dumb and it's very uninformed. Yeah,
there's two things I want to add to that. So the first thing is I'd say it'd probably be us or Texas looking at your schedule. And like I actually think that Texas for the first time in a long time actually deserves to be hyped a little bit, like just from the way that the roster is built, right? Like they're actually good on the fronts for the first time in a long time. But besides that point, we don't need to talk about Texas. Screw those guys.
Like good, you're learning.
You're fitting in already.
Yeah, and TCU too, right? Isn't that the other one?
Yes.
Okay,
that's another one.
They're absolutely.
I was gonna say they're a little more tolerable, but not much.
Not really.
No.
Yeah, so I think like the one thing that I keep coming back to with this is with Rodriguez out at linebacker, like whoever's playing in his place, like if you're a linebacker for Tech, you better bring your work pail and be ready to work because Bucky Irving, Oregon starting running back, he's not the biggest back you're going to see all year. He's probably not the fastest, although he did hit 21.8 on his touchdown run miles per hour last week, which is the second tied for the highest in the country.
Crazy, yeah.
But he's a bowling ball of butcher knives. He is legitimately the scrappiest back we've ever had. And like you're gonna have to earn it. Like if you want to get him on the ground like that, like you're not gonna just like come in with a half-ass effort, and that will wear on teams. And so like that's something I look at with Tech specifically with some of the personnel you guys are down on the interior of the linebacker room. Is like I'm sure that's where Oregon's gonna look to attack. And so just looking at matchups again, I appreciate the compliments. I do think this is a very talented Oregon team, probably one of our most talented teams, but. I think that you guys are going to be able to find some things through the air. And I think that you guys are going to, we'll see how the tackles play because Tech was pretty questionable at tackle last year. And I don't know that Wyoming was really able to, they weren't able to challenge you guys on the edge. And I don't know if we're going to be able to. So I think it's going to really come down to like your passing game.
Yeah. Questionable is putting it nicely, I think. Yeah. So, yeah.
It
wasn't great.
It'll be a good one. What's ironically enough, Jack, you might laugh at this. I think if Tech beats Wyoming by like 2 points, in overtime, like with the conversion, I actually think we probably lose this game by 10-14. But because they lost, it actually, I mean, I know these guys are going to be, they're reeling right now. And I think it kind of closes the gap a little bit. But I don't know. It's going to take a lot on our end. It is. I mean, us three could go around and talk about this till we're blue in the face. Oregon's good. I could be sitting here next week laughing, saying I'm a dumbass for even thinking it was going to be within 6 and they were going to cover. So it's going to be fun either way, guys. This has been great. I know we're running a little longer than normal. I want to, in closing, give no problem at all. This is great information. I know our listeners are going to love all of the stats and the analysis that you provided. So we can't thank you enough for that, Andrew. Real quick, I want to give you a chance. Go ahead and plug your shows, social media. Yeah. So we can get that out to our followers.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and the show. So I'm QB11SD on Twitter. Our show is the QB11 Show on Twitter. We're presented by Scoop Duck, which is the Oregon on 3 site. Follow my co-host at Doug TS as well. He does a great job. He's definitely our data analytics guy. He does a really good job. Tweets out a lot of pertinent information that'll actually probably be interesting in the days after the game. Right, that'll probably still be interesting to Tech fans. So. Give us a listen, give us a follow. We really appreciate any support you guys provide. So
awesome. All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Buckle up, strap in. We're hoping for a West Texas shootout. Well, actually, I know we're not. We're hoping that we can get some turnovers and maybe keep it a little lower, but it's probably going to be a West Texas shootout come Saturday. From Jack, myself, and Andrew with the QB11 show. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, keep your guns up, and we'll see y'all next time.